This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, we got one of my favorite guys on here tonight. He's a prominent leader in the state of Alabama. Most of our viewing audience is in Montgomery and the River region, so we're very fortunate tonight to have as our guest Montgomery's Mayor Stephen Reed. Mayor, good to have you on the show.
Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
We were visiting before the show, and I'd forgotten about a long time how old I'm getting to be. Stephen doesn't age a bit, but when he first ran for probate judge, he came on the show, and he won that first race, and then he meandered over to mayor's race. We had him on the show when he ran for mayor, and now he's thankfully, we appreciate him coming on our show as the mayor, and maybe he might give us time every year to kind of get us an update on what's going on with the city of Montgomery, because it's a very important thing. You know, a lot of people, when you ran for probate judge, moved from probate judge to mayor, somebody told me you first going to run, probate judge is really a nice job, especially pay-wise and retirement-wise, you know. And I've had your friend J.C. Love on here too. Now, a couple times when he was running in y'all's race, and then had him on since he's been probate judge. But was it a tough decision to make to move for probate judge? You had a pretty crowded field to run for mayor. You had 10 people, so didn't you?
Yeah, we did, but it wasn't a tough decision. It was something that we prayed about and talked over with my family as well and friends, and we thought that was a place where we could make a bigger impact on the community than we could from the bench, and it's worked out.
Do you know, did you ever, growing up, did you ever talk to your daddy about maybe running for mayor or something? He think you were going to be in politics?
No, sir, no.
He didn't think you would?
No, well, I told him I wouldn't be. So I told him that I was going to go into business and wanted to lead a company or a firm or something along those lines.
Well, your bachelor's is in business at Vanderbilt, isn't it?
That's right. Well, my MBA is from Vanderbilt and undergrad bachelor's from Morehouse.
You know, you Morehouse guys are taking over Montgomery. Y'all have kind of a camaraderie. Yeah. I've had Kirk Hatcher on. He's quick to say, I'm a Morehouse man from Montgomery, and we came back home to take our leadership position. J.C. Love says that. And they all refer to Stephen as a Morehouse man.
Absolutely. I think that's something that's in the DNA of a lot of us that matriculate through the university, through the college itself, and I think go on to other universities for, you know, post-secondary degrees and, you know, master's degrees, doctorates, all those things. I think is just kind of in our culture, I think, to want to lead and to want to try to make a difference where we can.
So your daddy, he thought you didn't ever want to get in politics, huh?
No, you know, I was pretty firm. That's why, you know, I left the city to go to college and then left Atlanta to take a job at American Airlines. And so I kind of stayed the corporate route until I came back here in 2004. And that's when I came back and started my own small business here.
Mr. Mayor, what about your mom and daddy doing well health-wise?
Oh, absolutely. They're doing very well.
Now, you know, did you and J.C. Love both went to Jeff Davis, didn't you?
Yes, we're a few years apart. Yeah, we're a few years apart. But like you said, he looks older than me, but he's younger than I am.
He's got a little kind of a youthful look about him, though.
Yeah.
J.C. does. Hey, Stephen, what about you know, the mayor's race? You won that very handily, and I figured you would. I'm on CBS 8 here in Montgomery. You know, they would ask me. I said, Stephen Reed's gonna do it. You know why I said that? I knew you'd have your good finance and everything, and you'd be a good candidate and best qualified, but there's something to be said, and don't take offense by the size of your city. Montgomery's a city, but it's like it has the same kind of familiarity of a town like Troy does.
Okay.
You know, that everybody knows each other.
Yeah.
Like it stood you in good stead to have been born and raised here. And I would say that on television, on CBS 8, they say, well, you know, he grew up, people watched him grow up from through his church and through his school. I mean, just think about when your campaigns, you got folks you went to Jeff Davis with.
That's right.
Somebody who just moves in here and runs. You can do that in Birmingham.
Yeah.
You can do it in a certain extent in Birmingham, but you can't do it in Montgomery.
Yeah.
Montgomery's still an overgrown small town.
Yeah, well,
People
it's
know each other.
tough to do. You're right about that.
It helps you, doesn't it?
Oh, no question about that.
Mm-hmm. They want to tie you to somebody.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
everyone wants to kind of have a reference point. They want to, make sure they kind of knew you before, you got into a certain position. And I think when you have that type of connection to people, it's helpful. It can be beneficial because they can be your best advocates and they can get more votes than any ad will ever buy, or
They
any
sure can.
any mailer you may have because of word of mouth. So
Some
it's
little old
important.
lady in your church. What church did you grow up in?
I grew up in First Congregational Church.
You still go there?
I go to Community Congregational
Uh-huh.
Church now.
But you think about this. When you were running, I guarantee you, there was a little lady in your church would say, "I watched that boy his whole life
absolutely.
growing up, and he's always been a good boy."
Well, in many other churches that I would visit as well, you would hear that. So you're right about that.
You know, I served almost 2 decades in the legislature from
Yeah.
Pike County, and smaller county, of course. But my family had been there for generations, and I started campaigning my first race, and everybody said, "I knew your great granddaddy," and they'd vote for you because of that,
Yeah.
And they want back in the old days with country people, they want to tie you to somebody.
You're right.
Have you ever heard that saying before?
Absolutely.
They want to tie you to somebody. But now you and your wife have 3 children, don't you?
We do. Girl and 2 boys.
No, tell me about them. One of them's Miss Howard or something. Isn't
She was last year. She just graduated and she's now working in
What's she
PR.
major in?
She majored in communications.
She's your oldest child.
She is.
And she was Miss Howard.
Yep.
What do they call old Joe and your mama? What do they call your grandpa?
Oh, they call them Mimi and Papa Reed.
They go over and see them a lot.
Oh, they do.
Uh-huh.
They do. They enjoy it. And the boys are keeping us busy right now with virtual school. So that's
busy.
been an adventure. To say
Now,
the
what
least.
grade are they in now?
They're in the 7th and 5th grade.
Where do they go?
They're at Baldwin and Forest Avenue.
I saw them on your ad for your property tax ad. I want to congratulate on that. Let's move into that.
Thank you.
It's one of our first issues we'll talk
Sure.
about during your first year. This is ending your first year in office. Time flies by, but talk about that property tax thing and what the need for it was and why you spearheaded the move to have. Let me say this too. I've watched this developing. There's a cadre of you guys who are young. I say young, in your mid 40s. The bipartisan. There's a lot of y'all who grew up in Montgomery, may have gone off to Vanderbilt or something, or Morehouse, and come back home, and y'all are taking over the leadership of Montgomery, and they're all allies of yours, like John Mazik.
Yes.
People like that, that are taking active roles, but he was real active in that thing. Tell us about how that thing worked out and everything, how y'all decided to move on it and everything.
Well, it was something that we ran on as mayor, that we wanted to invest in our public
You ran
education
when
system.
you wanted to do that.
Absolutely. And we discussed investing in our public education and why there was such a dramatic need for it. And I believe that the referendum was really the most consequential election that we've had in several decades. And that includes my own, because it doesn't matter who you have as mayor. If you don't have the resources to implement your vision, you're not going to be able to get very far. And one of the things that we recognized early on was that our school system was underfunded. We have been funded at the lowest level legally mandated by the state, which was 10 mills. And we knew that cities like Huntsville had been at 28 mills for over 30 years. And our question was, why not us? Why aren't our schools getting the same type of support locally, and why can't our students have those same opportunities? And we really thought that we would need to build a broad coalition of business leaders, faith leaders, community leaders to really make this work. And we knew that we were going to have to raise money. We were going to have to treat it as a campaign. So we were talking about this campaign when I was running for mayor, that we would be doing a similar campaign just without a candidate in another year for this referendum. This was my number one legislative and political issue that we wanted to pass, and we wanted it to happen in this year because of the general election. We wanted it on the general election ballot, and that's why we asked State Representative Kirk Hatcher to sponsor the bill in the legislature, and he did a great job ushering it through there. And it took the business community to help us with that. It took bipartisan support amongst those that are local leaders here to really get it through. We had opposition, stiff opposition, but we were able to.
For even the legislature?
Oh, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
But we were able to overcome that because of the leadership that we had, and I think because of the support that we garnered.
I am kind of surprised the Pike Road legislators didn't try to fight it or something.
Well, they did.
Uh-huh.
They did. You're right.
Uh-huh.
So don't be too surprised. They did try to fight it, and but we were able to make this work, and we were really able to really show the strength of our coalition and support that we had. That I think was very key to getting it through.
Uh-huh. Well, now, have they got the same millage out there at Pike Road that the City of Montgomery has?
No, they're
so theirs is still theirs is.
What's much more? They're
Okay.
at 28. This now puts us at 22 mils. So we still aren't where they started.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some irony in that. Is that Pike Road is a city less than 10 years old, and they started much higher than Montgomery has ever been, and so we still aren't there. So this is a step in the right direction. It's not our final step, because the final step will come when there's really equity where the funding is concerned. And we have to make sure that that is the case where our future is concerned educationally and where the future of this city goes economically as well.
Speaking of that, now the one thing that does too, it raises $33 million.
Yes.
What do you think will be the initial thing where citizens will be able to see the asset of that $33 million? What kind of things will you be able to accomplish that you weren't able to do before?
Well, I think that where they will probably see it is going to be in the deferred maintenance that the school board plans to use some of it for. So it will be to remodel some schools, to renovate some schools that don't have working air conditioners, that don't have good blinds in the windows, that need various things replaced, heating systems replaced. So that'll probably be the easiest way for them to see it. Mm-hmm. I think the most impactful way that it will be felt is through the expanded curriculum that we will have, the ability to bring in more AP classes, to expand our magnet programs, to bring in arts and foreign languages into many more schools, to even bring in additional teachers, reading coaches, and support staff. So that's where I think we really make the difference, and I think that's where the school board is going to prove its worth by really providing the top-down and really 360-degree educational experience that our students need to be prepared for a 21st century workplace. And we can't do that on a 20th century budget, and we cannot do that doing things that we have in the past that aren't, allowing us to stay at pace with cities that are growing and cities that are moving forward, like Huntsville and others across the state and certainly across the Southeast.
Mayor, speaking of that, and I'll preface the question by sharing this conversation. I was sitting right where you're sitting one day. Todd Strange used to come on this show about every year, and we'd talk about what was going on in Montgomery when he was mayor. And I was sitting there, I was casually having this conversation like we are now, and it had been a real downturn in the economy, and there'd been a lot of state employees laid off. And most people were probably of the same impression that I was. And I said, Todd, I know that's been a real bad for the city because the state government has lost jobs, and that's y'all's #1 employer. He was quick to correct me. He says, no, we're glad to have state government here, but it's not our #1 employer. I said, is Hyundai gotten that big now? He says, no, it's Maxwell Gunter.
That's right.
So people who are not from Montgomery don't realize Maxwell Gunter is the #1 economic engine or economic thing for the city of Montgomery. I bet you most people outside Montgomery don't know that.
I believe that.
But back to the thing, that's one thing that I've heard rumors of, and I think you confirm it's not, that the military people are saying, y'all need to do something about your school system, otherwise it's going to jeopardize BRAC things in the future or something like that. So I think that may be one of the best reasons to have done it. Did y'all talk about that during the referendum?
We did, and that had been shared by past military leaders as well as present military leaders, that there was a chasm that existed between the support educationally here and where the support was coming from military men and women that were stationed here. They were leaving their families behind because of our schools and because of the lack of opportunity educationally here versus where many of them were coming from. And that was certainly impacting things with the military, and it did not help us from a location standpoint because it was costing the military money, and it was bringing up discussions about whether or not, the future of Maxwell will be long-term here, or whether or not it was something to be reevaluated. And we didn't want to wait until we got in a situation that was an emergency. We wanted to be proactive and to hear the feedback so that we could stay out ahead of it and strengthen our relationship that we have with Maxwell Gunter Air Force Base, as well as the U.S. military overall. We would really like to be in a place where we can grow the presence here. And we certainly, can't do that until we stabilize it, but we'd really like to grow the presence here. And you have to invest in yourself. You have to believe in your community, and you can't just talk about it. You have to walk it like you talk it. And we weren't doing a good job of doing that. We did a good job of talking it, but we didn't do a good job of walking it and putting things in place to position the city for prosperity and growth. And in part, that's why the city has lagged behind in population growth. That's why it has lagged behind in terms of economic growth and output. And that's why Central Alabama lags behind other regions in this state right now when it comes to GDP. We just don't produce enough goods here, and we have not done the things as the economic capital of Central Alabama, the city I'm talking about now, to stay ahead of other communities. And we're in a global race for talent and resources. Every community is, and there are winners and losers, and there are scores that are kept, and you have to understand what the rules of play are. And the rules of play certainly are you have to have a strong education system if you want to recruit and retain talent, and if you want to attract jobs and economic development. You can't do that without a core foundation of healthcare, education, and certainly providing basic goods and services, as well as public safety.
Well, let me say this, Mr. Mayor, talking about economic development. We'll move in that area, if you will. That was impressive that, and I may not say the name of the car right because I don't speak Korean.
Tucson and the Santa Fe?
Yeah, the Hyundai, but that comes under your watch, They're expanding and making their big expansion here in Montgomery. That's a coup for you, I think.
Well, it is.
It speaks highly of you, I think, because you've been in office for a year, and they came just a few months ago.
Well, it is, and I think it's.
Did you work on that with them?
I did, and we give a lot of credit to certainly the team members out at HMMA. They're doing great work. I think from our standpoint, working with our Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Office over there, we want to make sure that we're doing those things that are necessary to maintain the relationship and to always improve it. And anything that we can do from the city, and certainly we try to partner with the county, we try to do, because we never know when those opportunities are going to come. We don't know when those opportunities are going to present themselves. So we want to prepare as if every day, every week, every month, there's a deal to be closed, and it's something that we're going to benefit from, because it, again, not only benefits Montgomery, it benefits all of Central Alabama, and thereby benefits the state.
Well, now, how many jobs are right there at Hyundai now, and how many will be added by this expansion of those two automobiles being made here?
Several thousand jobs out there right now, and
when you say several, like 2 or 3 or something?
Well, it's closer to about a little over 4 now.
4,000, over 4,000 people work at Hyundai.
Yes, and so you have that, but you also have the tier 1 suppliers.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And so you have a number that are associated within that with those suppliers. And one of the things that we hope that by producing more vehicles, it will allow for the growth of new jobs at the plants as well as those suppliers. And we're going to really try to do everything we can to further that cause by bringing in workforce development programs, apprenticeship programs, so that our residents here are prepared for those jobs when they get out there, and they can exceed the expectations and really do a great job performance-wise.
Education would make that difference.
Education makes a tremendous difference where that is concerned, because it gives not only students but working adults an opportunity to learn a different skill. It gives them an opportunity to go in a different career path without necessarily going to get a 4-year degree and coming back with all the student loan debt that I might have. So it's a great opportunity.
Let me ask you this, talking about that, I agree with you that work in the industrial areas, the future, and so you're all gearing your education system, I guess most people in the state are, towards training people for jobs.
Absolutely.
In the workforce. You know, I was just sitting here thinking, who trains though? Is it trained out there at the tech school out down on Troy Highway? Or I can't call the name of McCarthy.
Trenum.
Trenum.
Yep.
Is they do a lot of it, or is it the state of DECA thing do it? Who trains most of them?
You know, I don't know who trains most of them, but I do know that Trenum has a lot of programs, and that's who we're working with in this area. And we think that we're going to have some other announcements here pretty soon.
That's y'all's only
right
technical junior college in Montgomery, isn't it?
That's right.
Well, that school has room for growth.
It does, and I think they're doing a good job of trying to get to that point so that not only are they adding students, they're adding also, opportunities for people in Central Alabama. They're adding opportunities for people around this state because of the offerings and because of the partnership we have with the automotive manufacturing industry.
Stephen, I may have asked you this when you were running. Going back to the conversation I had with the former mayor about the number of military people here in Montgomery, there are a lot of retired military officers here in Montgomery. Is there anything the city can do to make them feel like they're appreciated, like give them a tax break, abatement? Or is anything done? There's a lot of, you look around into these communities in Montgomery, and the people who are the leaders in the church and everything else are retired military people.
No, you're right.
They like the climate, I guess, or like the city of Montgomery, made it friendly.
Well, they like the cost too.
Yeah, that's right. But they retire here.
Yeah, no, they do. And I think for us, it provides an opportunity to have them as contributors to the community, like you said, whether it's church, whether it's nonprofit, or whether it's them being active in a second career. We benefit from that, and we're proud that so many of them call Montgomery and the River Region home.
They do. I mean, so you think about it, you've seen it growing up, though. I mean, that's
well, several of my coaches, Little League were retired military personnel from Maxwell and decided to stay here. And so I've certainly benefited from their experience and their leadership, as well as at my church, similar situations where people came and retired here because of the cost of living, because of the opportunity, because of the climate, and things that they could do here that maybe they didn't want to do in some of the other cities where they had lived. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this question. Have you got, what is the biggest thing we only got about 4 minutes left. You've done a good job with the COVID thing. It's been a difficult first year with COVID.
It has.
I mean, this has been a heck of a year to become, almost when you were sworn in, it comes up like a locust,
It was not too long after that. And, it's one of those things where I think, for all of us as Montgomeryans and those of us that are residents here, we've done a great job, I think, collaborating together through this. It has not been an easy thing to deal with, but I think that we've been flexible and we've tried to work together in our workplaces, our churches, our schools, to really adjust to this new normal. And it's something that, for the first few months, we were kind of flying by the seat of our pants, if you will, and I think after that we kind of got our arms somewhat wrapped around it, not all the way, and now we're in a place where we're trying to ride this out, and we're trying to make sure that we're being proactive by asking people to continue wearing their mask and abiding by the CDC guidelines and listen to the governor's safer at home order. All of those things are part of this, but for us, the main thing is to certainly try to save lives, and even if it is a minor inconvenience, to understand that this is temporary, and it's something that we'll come out of, and I think we'll come out strong and better on the other end.
Well, you've done a good job, not just of taking care of Montgomery, but it's almost like you took over in a football game. You start your game and you get 2 block punts the first play.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to play defense. I mean, the rest of the time. So, you've done a good job. I mean, people around the state talk about what a good job you've done with handling Montgomery. But it was an albatross to start off any mayor.
No question.
You know, the long-term mayor or whatever, you couldn't go on the offense if you had to be on the defense.
That's right.
And let me say this, folks, what y'all are watching. Me and the mayor have our masks on. He was so diligent about his.
That's right.
He was going to do the show with his on. I said, we're 6 feet apart. We can just talk on the show.
Yes, sir.
He wasn't going maskless, y'all.
That's right.
So tell us in closing, one last thing you'd like to you'd like to work on next is that you're proudest of for the last year, or what would you say?
Well, I think, we're proud of our budget. We're proud of the fact we did not have to use any of the city reserves. We did not have to use a line of credit. We were able to cut our budget in the second quarter by 10%. That saved us a lot on the back end. I think that we're in a solid, if not very good, financial position given all of the things that COVID has brought before us. And so that part has been, I think, one of the highlights. And as we go into this next year, one of the things that we want to focus on is how to support our small businesses more, how to help them get through this period of challenge, because small businesses are the economic backbone of any community. And they may not get the headlines that a Hyundai gets, or some of our large employers, at Baptist Health and others may get, but they're the backbone of this economy. And so we want to support them as well. And we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to save Main Street, so that when we get through this COVID chapter, we're able to get things back up and going, and we're able to save jobs and provide opportunities as best we can.
Well, you're doing a good job as mayor of your hometown, born and raised here. Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed has been our guest, folks, and he's ending his first year in office and has done an outstanding job, and he projects a good image for Montgomery too. We thank the mayor for being with us and hope he'll join us again maybe every year as we get around the end of the year. And we thank you viewers for watching. Hope you tune again next week for Alabama Politics. Thank you so much.